Alright guys, welcome back to a long segment that I haven't done in a long time called What Would They Think? Basically where I talk about two sets of characters, or groups of characters, I think I just repeated myself, and basically talk about what would it be like if these two groups of characters not so much fought, but more like met, and what would they think of one another? You know, what would it be like if these two groups of characters kind of, what would they think of one another? What would they, yeah, basically think of one another, and what would they say to one another if they actually met? What would the interactions be? And this is one I've been wanting to do, but after Voltron Season 3, I was like, yeah, I would really like to do this now. I would really like to just talk about this one. And this is one I've had in my mind since I started watching Voltron Legendary Defender. That being, what would the Stormhawks, from, of course, Stormhawks, think of the Paladins of Voltron? So, I'm going to do this pre-Season 3 Voltron. So, yeah, Shiro would be in this lineup. So what would it be like if the Paladins and the Stormhawks met? You know, what would that be like? Obviously, let's talk about the obvious one. There needs to be adult supervision for Finn and Lance. Do not leave those two alone with anything. Because seriously, Finn and Lance would be instant BFFs, and they would get into all kinds of trouble in under 30 seconds. Like, the moment you leave those two alone, they're either breaking something, or hitting on someone, or something else. Because, yeah, nothing good would come from those two. And I'd also imagine that Finn and Lance would also have, like a sharpshooting rivalry. Like, no man, that crossbow ain't gonna hit that. My gun's better. And Finn would be like, no way, dude, I can totally hit that. Like, they would totally have, they would just get into a who's the better sharpshooter. They would just get into that kind of competition. And everyone else would be like, no, stop. Plus, I feel like those two would just consistently get into all kinds of trouble together. That would be, like, Finn and Lance have just found, when they find each other, it'd be like the perfect partners in crime, basically. Anyway, so yeah, Finn and Lance would just be, it'd be terribly awesome to have those two hang out. So let's talk about another two, Shiro and Aerrow. Shiro and Aerrow would be excellent team leaders, and putting them together would be awesome. Obviously, Aerrow's still pretty young, so he could probably learn some things from Shiro. He could easily, he could probably learn a few things from Shiro's experiences. I would actually love to see them spar. Like, yeah, Aerrow and Shiro just kind of sparring and, training with one another. I could definitely see that, and I think not only Aerrow, but I think Piper and the other Stormhawks would be really interested in Shiro's arm and where that kind of power comes from. I think, honestly, I think all the Stormhawks would be really cool with the weapons, especially, of course, when they see Voltron, they would just, like, shit their pants collectively. Like, there would be this collective, aww. Especially, like, with the Lions. Like, honestly, if the Stormhawks ran it, just the Lions alone, like, they would see that, and Finn and Lance Finn would be like, oh man, we just have flying bikes. They get robot lions. They go into space. What are we doing with our lives, Aerrow? Might as well give up. Yeah. Like I said, Finn and Lance would be instant, like BFFs, but at the same time there would be consistent dick measuring contests between them. But yeah, like I said, they would definitely, like, go crazy with seeing not just the Lions, but seeing Voltron itself. Anyway, so getting back to Aerrow and Shiro, I definitely think that Shiro could impart some knowledge to Aerrow, being that he's older and he's had a lot of experience leading. So I feel like he could impart some knowledge to Aerrow, and like I said, those two would definitely, bring these two teams together flawlessly. So yeah, definitely Aerrow and Shiro would be the ones bonding. Piper and Pidge, definitely. Piper and Pidge would be also, instant BFFs, just, the only girl, well, there'd be a Laura as well, but, yeah, I could see that Piper and Pidge would definitely, really hang out because they're both the science tech whiz, and they're the girl among the guys. Although Pidge does have a Laura, she does kind of feel left out among the guys as the main member of the team. So Piper would kind of understand that, and I would love to see Piper like really get into the logistics of like how the ship works and everything. And I think in turn Pidge would be really interested to see how crystals work, how the Condor flies, how their vehicles fly in general. And like I said, I think honestly the Paladins would be like, oh man, they get flying motorcycles? How come we don't get flying motorcycles? It's a thing we need. Forget the lions. So that would be a definite right there, is that Pidge and Piper, like, again, Pidge would be really interested to, study the inner machinations of crystals, and like I said, Piper would be really fascinated by the ships as well as the lions. And I think, honestly, they would talk a lot of shit about their respective groups. Like, yeah, especially Finn and Lance. The main tether here is Finn and Lance, if you have not gathered that those two would probably be the biggest ones to hang out. Like, they would be instant friends, but like I said, instant rivals as well. Anywho. So moving on to Junko and Hunk. Junko and Hunk would also be great friends. The big, burly, softies that love to eat. So they would definitely be good friends as well. I think they would definitely, bond over about mechanics, and especially cooking. And I actually think Hunk would actually enjoy Junko's cooking. Because, let's face it, once you eat Altean food, especially cooked by Karan, I would imagine nothing really phases you. So he could definitely be, like, warfing down everything, Junko cooks, and be like, oh, you gotta give me, like, the recipe for this. Oh, this is so good. And everyone else is just like, what? So yeah, Junko and Hunk, definitely friends. Keith, I don't know if he would bond with anybody. Maybe Aerrow. I think Shiro and Keith would be hanging out with Aerrow collectively. As for who would be hanging out with Stork, probably be Karan. Mostly because those two would just play off each other. because Karan's like, oh, hello, you little green elf. I'm Karan. And I instantly hate you. that would be Stork's reaction to all of this. Like, he would just look at Voltron and go, we might as well retire. So that would definitely be that. Like, again, I think going back to Keith, if he was to hang out with Aerrow, I think Aerrow would be really curious about, the blade he uses, his tactics, as well as, if this was, like, after Shiro's disappearance, I feel like Aerrow could impart some knowledge on, hey, I wasn't ready to be leader of the Stormhawks, and look at me now, it's something that, you have to deal with when the time comes. So, I feel like, yeah, he could, Aerrow could be a good guidance for Keith if they ever met. Allura would be a lot of fun, and also, Finn would be hitting on her non-stop, because it's Finn. So Finn definitely would be hitting on her consistently, to the point where I think, oh, I'd prefer Lance hitting on me at this point. Yeah, and then out of nowhere, Lance would just go, yes! Because that would happen. That would happen. Anyway, so definitely I could see these two groups just kind of bonding and hanging out. Like, there's so much similarities between them. Like I said, I would love to see, like, but the big thing here, like I said, Lance and Finn just consistently, like, either hanging out, because like I said, there should be some adult supervision with those two together. But anyway, you guys tell me, what do you think it would be like if the Stormhawks met the Paladins from Voltron Legendary Defenders? Just comment below, let me know what you guys think, how this would go, and once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I'm out.